Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. Today's episode is being recorded on 6/4/25. This is another Q&A, folks, so we'll get right to it. I open this circle to true benevolence with no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So, Joanna?
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We ask for benevolence now with no conflicting agenda to come in now to be with us during this time. We ask for malevolent and mischievous beings to be swept away right now so that we may have this conversation in peace. And with that, and with always the great blessings we send your way, we say, so be it.
And so be it. So I believe this is going to be an interesting one, slightly shorter, but this is for the affirmation blessing. Earth, fire, air, and water. We all must pay heed to the elements, Warhagen the elemental. So we will move on to the first question.
Birthmarks. They are known as wounds from other lifetimes, but do they also spread back far enough to be from the galactic war times as well?
All right. Yes, they do. Not just the bullet hole Joanna got from you in World War II, meaning me, in the neck wound, eye wound, and, well, you get the idea, do you not? Meaning this is Isaac poking at my eye. So one can carry such a wound from such a long time ago that it can manifest a medical condition now, layering on realities shit one over the other until one can bear it no more. Diseases, viruses, even accidents can very easily become fatal, or at the very least, debilitating, disabling. Get it? And now he goes to the next question, but I will go into this just for a second. I call this concept energy weights and compound energy weights. In my original book, From the Fall to the Lifting, I spoke a little bit about that, about the layering of wounds. Like if you get a wound at the very beginning of, say, your soul's history, it can layer. Just like I had a lifetime where a rock crushed me, and I had layer. And including the famous one at Salem, by the way. So I didn't know that until much later. Also, like my father, for instance, he has had a blood clot in his leg that he's had for some time. I came to find out that he was with my grandfather at the Battle of the Bulge in World War II, stepped on a landmine, shrapnel hit it. That was the wound. How did it manifest in this lifetime? A blood clot. That frequency, what it is, it's a frequency that wound existed on. Therefore, if he didn't go to spirit and jumped right back in from our perspective, of course, you have spirit there and us here, all around, I should say, he would have, and didn't have that audited, he would have brought it with him to the next incarnation. So what happened? There's this blood clot that forms within that particular frequency that was undealt with. I also have a friend who was King Henry VIII in a past life. What happened to this person? He got into a series of car accidents that gave him the exact same wounds that Henry VIII had, from the head to the gout to the knee injury, all of it. The knee injury came first, then the gout, then the head injury. Or I believe it was the head injury, then the gout. It went in the order Henry VIII had it. That's what I find interesting. Also, myself, when I went to Japan, I found out I was one of the 47 Ronin. When I went to the palace of the 47 Ronin, and we were there on day 2 of 3 days, the temple itself was open. What I ended up doing was going through their little walking ceremony, through the incense ceremony with them. And of me walking the grounds, managed to get rid of the junk from that lifetime. I had stomach issues. What happened? 47 Ronins committed simbuku, the suicidal, or the ceremony that they do for suicide or ritual suicide. So these are how these things can carry from one lifetime to the next. And she has birthmarks that show wounds on her head and her neck. I have one on my back that was from an impaling through the heart, where a sword went through the back. It went in the form of a triangle on the back and through the front here. This was a triangular shaped blade, but it also took place in Egypt. So therefore the wound showed me the shape of a pyramid or a triangle. Also, that has to do with Orions too, and Orions were there in that particular period during that last invasion. But it wasn't, that was the minor portion of this, believe it or not, but it was the wound and the shape of the sword that actually counted more in this. So, I will go on to the next one.
What was the real cause of the Pokemon scare in Japan in 1997?
Okay. Okay, was this Isaac again? Yes. Okay. Aside from the obnoxiously loud colors and lights causing some of the seizures, nausea, and vomiting, there was, and still is, the binary network to consider. Along with the colors and lights came coding and symbols for mind control purposes. However, this failed in some cases because due to the fact that some brains don't take to it. Immune kids to the one thing, immunizing kids to the one thing that we all love to hate, and that is the mouth. You can go back on that episode of the lifting about the mouth to get more information on that. That's it. That's a wrap. So that one I find interesting. Yeah, there were colors and light flashes from that famous incident caused some kids to go into seizures. He was basically saying that was actually also part of some not earlier tests of binary network, but a set of tests that they just happened to be running, is what he was talking about, the mind control network that was started in '64 when Wernher von Braun flipped on the binary network at the World's Fair, basically starting the demoning. So you can go into the World of Sasquatch episode that we did on the demoning, and on the episode of the lifting on the Arconian binary network for more information on those. So, next one.
Is the reason the Superman character being rebooted constantly because Hollywood is giving the finger to the galactic community? Also, was the AI image I saw of Michael Jackson as Injustice Superman as synchronicity as to the fact he suffered an injustice?
I find this interesting. I will give one bit of backstory to this before I give Michael Jackson's response. I just happened to be looking at Facebook, and somebody made these goofy pictures of who would make the worst Supermans as Injustice Superman, and that is the more some of the sometimes it's the Mirror Universe Superman, sometimes it's one that's like a little more hardcore. But some people are making parodies as to who would be that. Jim Carrey was one of them. Michael Jackson was one of them. I find this interesting because Michael Jackson, I found out, did this particular synchronicity, and I found this rather interesting. So, yes, Chris, on both accounts, you see, don't you? People judge me. People make fun of me. And you know what I don't do? I don't stop laughing. I am also stating that, for the record, I am untouchable by them. They cannot do anything against me anymore. So though the Superman image was created and considered to be a joke, I turned it into a win by removing it from its original context and created my own. Get it? They changed Superman a lot because they want to not only fuck with people's minds by taking a sacred canon character and fucking it up as much as humanly possible, but they also are fucking with the galactic community as much as possible by giving them the finger. Since it is they who wish to topple corporate America, i.e. Lex Luthor, get it? I win and always have. Michael Jackson. And that is true. Superman is an allegory for an amalgam, I should say, of the totality of the galactic community that says kids raised here by human parents. There's people that we know that have been galactics that go through this. They do the whole, it's kind of almost like a kind of a mixture of the Jesus and the Superman story. But in this, the Superman represented not only hope, truth, justice, and the American way, like the comics originally said and the movies said, but in this, the original context for it was that basically a galactic being raised by humans to make sure that person had a stake on what happened down here. And Lex Luthor, many people thought that Superman and Lex Luthor were the dichotomy between Michael and Lucifer. No, Lucifer, they thought this was the case. No, this was against like the galactic community against ICC interest or over corporate capitalistic type purposes there. This is the clash between also between globalist and American capitalists too. But capitalism is not a bad thing, not at all. It's just that that was also someone else's viewpoint, that it was globalist versus individual country U.S. capitalist. Somebody else brought this up to me one time as a possible other viewpoint for this. So I'm not disagreeing based on some of the politics at the time it was created. So I'm not disagreeing there. So we can move on.
Are jokes just as funny after you pass them on to the other side?
Okay, yeah, this was one by George Carlin that came out. I found this funny. Okay. Yes, in fact, they are. Your old uncle, Mr. Conductor George Carlin, to say that, yes, we joke, we love, and we fuck. That's all, folks. George Carlin. That's all he said on that, by the way. So I find that hilarious. And that's classic Carlin right there. So next question.
If dragons are titans too, I wonder if any evolved elsewhere.
Okay, this was interesting. Yes, they did, but not in the very same variation as ourselves. Some evolved into cat dragons. You know them as Khazad-dûl, but our variation is that of the Titans and their variations. The Khazad-dûl branched off and became the Lyran people and of their descendant lineages. The original Khazad-dûl are nearly all extinct, with the exception of a few incarnated folks. You once knew one that had gone rotten in her human form. That's all, folks, for now. Burgess the dragon. And yeah, there was a world out there, or planet. I'm not sure if I believe it was a dimensional space actually. That was also a nexus point. That there were royalty there that were part lizard, part cat, and before that they were more lizard. And they started to diverge and create eventually the Lyran people and other reptilian and dragon-like species in the galaxy. What Burgess was saying is that his people here were separate. They're Earthers, is what he was trying to say. I thought they were one at first, but he's saying they were two different divergent lineages, is what he was trying to say. I thought they were the same thing for a while. He was making it clear they're not. It's like I was made clear recently that certain elf types and Lancaneers are separate divergent species that happen to be cousins. So I had it wrong slightly in the way that I thought it was, and I'll correct myself if something new comes up. So also the next one.
What are the misnomers behind frequency?
One big one, the fact that yes, can a strong frequency keep you protected? Yes, but can it also recombine and or recondition your genome? Yes. Can an alien in a suit go to a supposed higher frequency and assault people from there? Yes, that happens a lot. Imagine for a moment that if humans gained the ability to go to not only just another timeline, but go to another frequency, whereas they could abduct, assault, and mind control anyone that they wished and or wanted to. This happens. Are they divine? If they are, we are all in trouble. A lot of it. Truth be told, there really isn't a divinity doing these things to people unless you count your oversoul and its plan. Enough said. By now, Isaac. And the context behind this, and I explained this in the previous, some of this in the previous Q&A episode that you saw before this one. There are misnomers behind frequency, like oh, they can't touch higher frequencies. That people are safe there. That's not necessarily so. That's the whole thing about 5D, like 3, 4, 5D type of misnomer. Oh, in 5D we'll have no wars and we'll be singing Kumbaya. That is complete horseshit, is what that is. That's the New Age community at work. What is going on is, say you have a being in a suit in a different frequency than doing things to this one. They could wreak havoc. You have military that are famous for doing this as well. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful example of that is Batman the Animated Series. I've said this a number of times, the character of Dr. Time. Beautiful example where he harasses Batman, and he also steals things from bank vaults and stuff like that. And everything looks like he's moving slowly around him. Star Trek has pulled this off too. And he's moving at normal speed. This is another dimensional space and or timeline temporal space that is coexisting with our own, within our own. And he's moving faster, seemingly moving faster, but then he could get things done. Star Trek did this where there were ETs that existed in a different frequency. They sounded like insects to us. But for Dr. Time, he'd knock on the door and it'd echo all over the place on one end. Eventually, Batman figures out that it's just frequencies. And he's just in this in-between space, and he goes and finds him and brings him back here. So that's a beautiful example of that. There's soldiers that abduct people on subways. There's one famous one in England that they do this to, where the train is a couple of minutes late coming in on the other side. I saw that in someone's session one time. I saw these military that were surrounded in green light one time, and I saw some people being abducted, put back, and the train was a couple minutes late without explanation. And I found out last year at the conference that this was actually an incident, that real incident that took place. So, and they do this all the time. These are our own people doing this, disguised as aliens and being in this other frequency. They even show in that Trek episode where Spock is in this other frequency doing repairs to the ship at lightning fast speed. And it's really, he's just going at his normal pace, and hours and hours are passing for him, and it's only a few minutes for us. So this is a real concept here. And he said, well, they're not divinity. Of course they're not, but they can hear you. They can hear what goes on. Why do you think they can attack so readily sometimes? Because they have time, no pun intended, to pull some of these things off. Some of them do this. And as I said about the encounter suits in Babylon 5 with Kosh in his encounter suit, saying that he would get tangled because he had to rest because people were looking at him outside his suit. Yeah, encounter suits, ETs have these. Go to the previous episode for more information on that. And one more aspect of this that I believe also there are also other military that do phase themselves into this other frequency. They use like a gate or an archway piece of technology. Next Generation did this beautifully, where the character of LaForge and Ro Laren, Geordi LaForge and Ro Laren, get phased out of phase. They could go through walls and everything, and then tachyons put them back in phase. They find a Romulan that was phased out with his weapon and everything. Beautiful example of the process done. And also, I believe that was the last thing on my list here. So I will, one more thing. ETs that also have this, they, like I said, they wear rings, necklaces, crowns, all of it to protect against frequency. They take pills, meds, everything technology, frequency based, to protect against our food toxins, so they can at least enjoy some stuff with us. And also, if they're from a different frequency, they're protecting against our own and our pollutants, essentially. Some races like Laniolosians can't be around the chemicals that come through our skin. Some forest people are that way. So I believe I will move on from this point. Next one.
Is Pete Hegseth renaming the USS Harvey Milk the beginning of the pendulum swing that Freddie Mercury was speaking about in a previous channels?
Mm-hmm. And I will admit, I'm the one that wrote this because Freddie Mercury wanted to be able to answer it. So I found this interesting, and he goes on a while, folks. So let's see. And he went on and even added a PS to the end of this one. So yeah, when it hits a subject like this, he goes off on a rant. So this is interesting. Yes, darling, it is. Freddie Mercury here to say, yes, unfortunately, to this. And he was sad about this. Let's see. This will switch temporarily and then bounce out. Meaning, for some, they just can't tell the difference between gay, homosexual, and that of, say, trans cultists. Christians, as well as extreme wokeness, will unfortunately come to blows. Now, here's the deal. And he's pissed about this, actually. Both sides have a right to live the ways that they wish to, but to say that one side is right and the other is wrong, this is infuriating to me as not only a gay man, but a man as well. Above all else, that is, meaning a man, not just gay or straight, is what he's trying to say. So he's giving a hint to both sides out there. Now, To repair this, one need only do one thing, and that is, can you guess it? Mind your own damn business. Who do you care who sleeps with whom? But also on the flip side of the coin, who do you care worships whom? To the woke gays, I say, stop poking the Christian bear. I don't care how funny that you think that it is to mess with them. And he's really pissed about that. And to my Christian buds, I say, stop caring who sleeps with whom. And he's really pissed about that too. All of you must stop this madness, as well as stop thinking that because someone on TV said it, that it must be true. Follow your hearts, God damn it. Follow your souls. Renaming a ship is only just the beginning of the end for your cause, Christians, and naming yourself more than one thing at a time, as well as complaining about who mispronounced your pronouns, it's the beginning of the end for your cause, supposedly woke gays. Lighten up, everyone. We are all one. One side of any, and I mean any argument and or cause will never stand alone. Thank you for letting me rant, Christopher. Peace out. And then he went on again over down here. P.S. Just because your religion says do it does not mean that you do it. And just because a supposed woke crowd says do it does not mean that you do. Okay, rant over, bye. And that's Freddie Mercury. So, see, he's on both ends of it here. He's basically saying he's slapping both ends right here. And I find that no, he said in more ways than one. Shut up. Okay, I knew you were around when I was reading your rant. Okay, and you'll find out if you were around him enough. Him and Isaac, they compete for attention like that. So I find that hilarious. So yeah, when he goes off on a rant, it's on both. So all right, next question. It's actually, I believe it's the last one of this bunch. Yeah. I would say start with where is there. So
Start just at the beginning.
right where the word is. Right
Okay.
there.
Is eczema increasing, and is the one of the causes of how much of eczema is caused by chemtrail poisoning and other things?
Yes, let's see here. Isaac here. Yes, sometimes entities will cause eczema and other skin conditions. Even some elementals will inadvertently do it because of genetic, biological, and energetic frequency incompatibility. But most of the time, current eczema is caused by chemtrails, chem clouds, and chem fog. The dumbing, as well as the frequency manipulation we call psionic dampening. That is all I know for now, Isaac. And I guess I did need we need to read the rest of that. And it said Chris has reported that mischievous monkeys and others in different dimensions harass cats and people with an urge to scratch themselves. That's why I didn't tell her not to read that. But basically, it was hinting at talking about other entities. With that, I just realized that was part of that. In the future, I know this is hilarious, but in the future, sometimes we don't catch that, so could word it just slightly more plainly next time, so we don't have an error like that. So funny, yes, but make it more plain. Okay. All right. Let's see. Now, is the galactic contribution Freddie? Are you talking? Oh no, it's not you this time. Okay, you were just here to make sure I read your rant. Okay. You will find that he rants a lot. Even from spirit, he does. And he's helping out in a lot of these different areas, and he's in a galactic form that's helping out in these areas in parts of Europe right now, from what I understand. That too. He says, okay, who's talking then, if it's not you? Hmm. Oh, you're in the room. Okay, who's talking? Is it Isaac? Is it Liam Bessa? Is it Force People? Who? Uh, uh, oh, okay. Liam Vessa, which one? I can't tell you both at the same time. Okay. Uh, hmm. All right. Elena. Okay, got it. Okay. Freddie, you don't have to pet my head. Thank you. He's doing this. Okay. You're trying to creep me out. Thank you. He does this, folks. Of course, he's not the one channeling, but he's in the room being a creeper. Yeah, okay. Yes, he does do this, but he's actually attempting to protect the environment with a hand over like this, and it just looks like he's petting his hair. So that does seem creepy, but at the same time, it's actually more of a shield. So he is to be thanked, and yes, I know Chris thanks him at this point in time. Now, the hodgepodge of all of these Q&As, I believe, is actually going to be extremely beneficial the more of these that are seen. But just know that given the hodgepodge of topics that are in there, these are less accountable for. You're able to not account for how many points of, not entanglement, but points of how many ears and how many eyes see from whom the names are mentioned in them. I know you guys do not necessarily name drop. It's just the fact that it's in the news and the fact that it is in the public eye, which is fine, just like you've mentioned the Diddy trial. It is in the news, it's out in the open, you're okay. But at this point in time, it puts another viewpoint, another spin on these things. But I must caution you with putting things out there. YouTube has not stopped its little miniature onslaughts, let's just say. Rumble is just absolutely fine. But Facebook is also not stopped. They just haven't noticed this yet. And same thing with YouTube. They just have not noticed these yet. So I wish you to heed caution. Wish this, and the public will thank you later. I mean, if you get questions about things, just do not comment on other insiders, because what do you think of this person? What do you think of that person? That is vastly different than the political arena. And it is vastly different than the Diddy arena or the Epstein arena and things of this nature, and Michael Jackson and the rest of them. This is also why Freddie is putting his hand over like this. Muting, not necessarily pushing a mute button on Chris, but a mute button on the eyes and ears that would normally be watching this computer. You see. And I'd say the computer, not necessarily just you, it's the computer that then watches you. You see. So, and the phone that then watches you, and then therefore they watch you. There are also remote viewers that look in and bilocate, but it's very difficult for them to do so because of the magical aspect of it. They also can be hooked to technology and diddly dick around with technology. And same with the ghosts and paranormal activity. They would be mistaken for this. And also the military he mentioned before also does things. Also, the one he did not mention was when you were in Prescott Valley during the COVID incident. You were in a Walmart and he ran into a female super soldier that was taller than him, bumped physically into her. And since he shifts his frequency around a lot, like kind of like the Borg modulation shield frequency and phaser frequency that hurts them, it's the same type of concept for the super soldiers in that frequency, and made it almost like the tachyon burst was in that Next Generation episode was for LaForge and Ro Laren. It was the same thing, made her visible, and she ran off on the size of a Halo character, roughly 7 feet high. A little more, but Isaac's at 7 feet high. This was about 7'5", something like that. About 7'5", 8, something like that. 8 feet, somewhere around there. This it varies a little bit, but with this, this was around the time of just when the stores reopened again, and they were planning to do something. When they got spotted, they stopped all over the place. They were going to use those stores as a staging area, and there are military bases underneath there, and they use them for staging areas just in case there's a war and there was going to be a false flag they were going to do. They were noticed too much, they saw it as a risk and stopped. That is the incident that we're referring to. Also, you've jumped timelines since then. On a different timeline, they did go through with this, obviously, for multiversal reasons. Instead of babbling, I will actually go into questions.
Was there any particular question said today that you wanted to comment on?
Not particularly in this batch, but I would again, this is also for people that are listening to this. Do not get complacent with social media. They have not stopped doing their thing. Even Brian commented recently, the reason for his other Facebook is the fact that they started to hit his original one. This happens to be true. It's also the fact you are approaching the conference by the time of this recording, and also that unity is taking place. They do not want these things. They want disruption in this, but they're only allowed so much overtness. Minor things, yes, not weather control, not any of these things towards it, none of these things. Just little minor things that add up. You call them the series of unfortunate events. Things of this nature. This started happening about this time slightly before last year, you see. Also with his shingles and such. And here we go again, you see. So it's similar, not exactly the same set of circumstances, but it is very similar. This could turn into a curse if not careful. It can be canceled out just with intention. Do not, pay attention to it, but don't give it power or it won't. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly. So, it is an interesting time. So I am going to bring up the one thing that was in the news today that had to do with the military renaming of the ship, because I think it's a very interesting dynamic being spoken about from you guys' perspective on things that will lead to a balancing that will occur, because the pendulum swing, and so it swings so far, now it's swinging back, and the goal it will settle. The reason I bring that up is I really am curious more from somebody's honest perspective about what's going on. We can see what's going on in our country, but what is really going on in the European countries as well, because there really seems to be a totally different hand of a faction or factions over there, right? That there is, you want to say everybody's getting along, Trump can get everybody to get along, but there is some serious clashing going on, I think, behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just curious about your perspective, and especially because as it's hitting the regular people in these countries.
The regular people only see so much that you guys are doing here. They see what Trump is doing. They do not see what the regular Joes are doing. Just like you see somewhat of what some of the politicians are doing over, like in England, with Starmer and all of them. You see also in Europe what some of their leaders are doing. You see France, what some of their leaders are doing, even with the guy that got punched in the face. You see these comical things, but you're not seeing the little in-between things. What is actually going on is less than comical.
Right.
You're seeing some of these things like little edges of instances, like the French president getting punched in the face, things of this nature that you laugh at because it's funny. But do you know what built up to this? No. Also, with the Pete Hegseth thing with the name of the ship, do you know what built up to this? No. It wasn't just waking up on the wrong side of the bed type of thing for him. These were elements of the current narrative going from one side to the other. And as Freddie said, it will end up here. This is where you need to be. In Europe, the day-to-day lives of people in some areas are virtually uninterrupted. But in other areas, though, are they being informed about the interrupted or uninterrupted moments of their leaders? No, it's the same as you guys. They are experiencing the exact same thing. It's just that in some of the countries, the U.S. is being made to look really horrible, and just like here, and some countries are made to look bad as well. The same thing with like Canada. Your country is being made to look like a monster. So all these bits of propaganda will culminate into a mean average after a while, and the people will go, hey, wait a minute. How about we ask regular people
Right.
after a while? And this will start to spark even mentioning this now will start to spark these conversations with people in other parts of the world. Just like with your Australia during COVID, all the harshness, they were one of the harshest in that area. They were one of them that was going to start concentration camps after a while. The same with your country. Did any of you know it right away? No, but when it came along, when it eventually came down the pipe that you thought you saw FEMA camps and they were really the other thing, people caught on pretty damn quick and they stopped it. This is another area. People will see this and go, oh shit, and stop it. So eventually the regular people will start to band together and create their own little communities and their own little things, aside from these governmental bodies. And this was what Spirit had in mind all along. To whereas it's just like what you were seeing on those pirate shows. When they had their camaraderie on the pirate ships, what was it? They did not give a rat's ass what political party they were part of. They knew they were in a community that they were all equals. Even though there was a captain, and what the captain said went, there were codes and bylaws. It was a very similar process with the all thing in the Viking countries. You will have a Roman Senate version and a mix of the all thing after a while, once the North American coalition and or unity gets rocking, you would say.
So because it is interesting, I think that, you know, obviously in our country, we talk about the borders being open and just people just streaming in, and some of them that did not, obviously, and still do not have good intentions. But Europe had its own version of that as well. And I don't think people really recognize that when you were saying that the same thing is basically happening anywhere, you know, people want to say, but, and I'm like, well, really look at it. The same thing did happen.
All over. It's mirrored everywhere.
Yes. And so, you know,
in their own country, borders and communities, the same thing happened.
Right. And although we see the universities and, you know, the promotion of hatred and whatever at universities, but they experience the exact same things, but from the ones who came into the country on their own, I believe they had, you know, a lot more. I don't know if the, you know, I want to call it lights, camera, actions, like light, camera, actions start disrupting. Like that happened sooner over there.
Yes.
And they're trying to start it here.
Yes, it happened over there. They were trained in different facilities. You've heard of MK Ultra. This was slightly different. Whereas this is how they started the gang wars in your country. He has memories of being in a different body where he was a gang member being trained in an underground facility in a fake neighborhood, doing gang warfare and street combat. He thought it was just gang warfare. This was not just gang warfare. He was actually seeing what some of these young people are being controlled to do. He was actually seeing this several years back, what was going to come down the pike. He was actually seeing people that were being trained in these underground facilities to be very violent, very protesting, and they had basically sex as a favor for violence. Gang warfare, what he also saw on the rise, this was actually something that happened in the past that he saw was the first thing that get like the Bloods and Crips going at each other. The next one is you're seeing the young people, like what was portrayed in your Star Trek Picard season 3 with machines controlling, was the Borg controlling them, and they went after the young people first. This is exactly what was being portrayed. The signals controlling, like in your Kingsman movies with the V2K, making everybody violent. They went after these young people, the impressionable people, and this is also something he saw many years ago when you guys first started this in a dream, where he saw that there was a government agent at a parent's house that he was basically, the government agent was saying that their child had basically took the side of the Islamic State. And these two children were actually off trying to figure out what was going on, and the world was changing very, very rapidly into a chaotic state of propaganda and violence and the breakdown. Similarly to Fallout, where some resources were being used up, but also political unrest. In this, though, there is a bit of a difference. He was seeing shadows of the future like he did with COVID, with the people in masks that were zombies accosting people. He was seeing other shadows of the future with these government facilities, where he even was walking into another house in this fake neighborhood, and there was a handler there saying, "You're in the wrong position, go out here." And the handlers would sit in some of the other houses to make sure that everybody followed protocol. You are now seeing that protocol. You are now seeing this. They are being trained in these base infrastructures to come out to cause problems, and these people generally believe what they're saying. It's just like in your Idaho when that person shot those college students. It was the same thing when that person went to that middle school and killed those children, and also the cops that wouldn't let the parents in, and they couldn't find the sniper or the resources. It's because these were all the players that were set up on the board. This is for something that's very hard for people to understand. But there's at least one chess player in each of these groups. You call them crisis actors, whereas they're trained, put in there, and they're there to cause chaos. They're essentially an agent of chaos. You call them anti-changers. They do this to cause problems. He saw this several years back again when he was looking in his own SSP history, but he was seeing the underground neighborhoods and training facilities that people will eventually see. He even saw what they tried to pass off as a fake Agartha, where it had a fake luminescent sun. He even saw Bush Sr. in the dream. He saw like Germans running a classroom in there. He was seeing elements of his SSP, but he was seeing another facility that people would be brought to just in case they were looking for underground places, mystical places and stuff. They would be brought to that place. It's actually an abduction place where people are brought to so they believe certain things are mystical when it's a military base. Not that there aren't mystical things. They happen every single moment of every single day. But they're trying to convolute those by putting those on top of it. Your Stephen Greer called them stagecrafting, where they set up aliens, but there are military, but there are aliens doing this. They're not all good. I can completely attest to that. But back on target, these protests, these people causing problems, you wonder why people can't let it go, just like what Freddie Mercury is saying, stop the madness. It is because they have plants on both sides. They have a version of one of them in their group. Like say a guy's at an execution going, kill him, that guy. They have one of those, like what he said in a previous episode. You don't want to go to these protests because there's always somebody you don't know, some moron holding a bottle. That's some guy you never knew, you've never met him, that's right there with you going, yeah, burn it. And then now there's a building or a car on fire, or both. So this is what happens. They escalate out of control completely, like they did in they call it the Summer of Love or 2020. This is exactly what happened. That's not being exaggerated either. So these are the things you are seeing the result. He is actually seeing the result of the shimmers of the future he saw several years back. This is what's going on now.
So again, this is to be expected, but the goal is for not just the United States, but for everywhere around Europe, that there will be a positive balancing out of all this as people kind of wake up and say, wait a minute, this is just stupid. This is just wrong. And I don't care what laws you're trying to pass or whatever, they can always be undone because you guys are being just absolutely, this is not how we want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it will happen, although I do still think that it looks like the United States will, in fact, in a way, kind of try to bring this stuff up. And I think then other countries will then follow the lead. It does seem to be generating a lot out of here. Although, again, there still is pendulum swings. I was taken aback when I saw that happen, what the secretary did with the renaming. I just was actually like, really? This is ridiculous.
They're going complete World War II old school with the military, which is fine, except that was before any of the positive changes had been made. The gays in the military is fine, but he makes the point: if you don't know who you are, should you be on a battlefield? No, and that's true for anyone. That's true for literally any person goes in that field. They have a right to change things as they want them because that's their lane. If you don't want to be in that lane, probably shouldn't be. But in this aspect, they are bringing the clock back. And I will say this, back to a moment when the timelines diverged. That's basically your Fallout timeline, where it went, in the storyline, it went more of a 50s looking universe of just past World War II. It diverged from what we know as your history, as you know of your history. They're taking it back before things went rotten in some areas for them. they're turning the clock back, just like what Trump says, make America great again. Yes, but you have to add the positive progression in there. You have to keep the updates, very much like you discovered about your metaphysical New Age community. Remember, they were taking things back to the 90s, but were they keeping all the updated information with it? No. This is exactly what's happening. You have other forces at work that are taking things back to an earlier period where now they can back it up a little bit and then move forward again in what they feel is their image. But the United States will still lead the charge against some of these political changes, like what Isaac said about Australia in the other conversation. It'll start here and it'll go over there and start to make changes in other places. That is still true, positive ones. But you are on the precipice of jumping from one to the next. Do you want New World Order or do you want unity? This is where you're at.
And so let's go into the African continent then and speak about them because of everything that's being said about, a backlash towards people in South Africa and those nations as a whole. I think obviously, unfortunately, the leaders that resoundingly were rejecting things from the COVID timeframe or whatever, I think they all were killed or died, which is died, which always is in quotes. Were
Died
killed.
Suddenly.
Yeah,
Yes.
died suddenly. But
like all the holistic doctors did before that.
Right.
Like George Tara and the rest of them, and any of them, yes.
So what's actually happening, because that is really a blackout area where you don't really get to hear much at all. What's happening with those areas right now? I mean, how are the people doing? How are they kind of resisting some of this first world badness, let's just say?
Some of the ones that are out in the wilderness, the tribe people, they're doing relatively okay. It's the ones closer to the cities. This is why years ago when somebody you knew was showing you a commercial, whereas they were showing you these different propagandic stages of what was going on in both North and South Africa, and then you had a political office that was dark, meaning useless officials were being gotten rid of. The cabal is trying, or what you call the cabal, is trying some of the Guidestone timeline narratives there, where they're trying to re-amalgamate power in different areas. They're testing it out on the continent of Africa first. When this occurs, they will try to take a copy paste and use it in other places. This cannot be allowed. And as much as you can't allow it in Africa either, there's some things that have been done that will have lasting scars. This is why do you think you saw the governments changing over so quickly over there from either democracy to communist to some revolution that took place, and it was always on the continent of Africa. And what do you think also has been an ancient seat of power since antiquity? The continent of Africa. The tribes were always at each other's throats after post-Atlantis. They were all over the place. And so English tried to conquer them, tried to gain access to the Enki mines, things of that nature. The whole Shaka Zulu thing where the British tried to take the gold and resources. And because they wanted this, because they were being ordered from on high from someone to gain resources. They're hedge betting groups and tribes out there. But this is what you have in Africa, a bunch of hedge bettors that are attempting to enact an agenda, but your human Kabbalists are attempting to field test certain things first, like in your movie Shooter, where you saw Danny Glover's character and another were genociding people in Africa for the resources. This is what's going on right now, but they're testing other things, viruses, sicknesses, things of this nature, just exactly like some of the aspects you saw in the movie where Mark Wahlberg kills the two Kabbalists in it. That was somebody giving those guys doing these exact things the finger. They had a hero come in and kill the two evil guys, and the government guy telling them where they were. It was basically a white knight giving the finger to the guys doing this in Africa right now, even as we're speaking. Even your blood diamond stuff, this was a part of it. They were looking for ancient resources, your blue stone being one of them. He saw this in a session with your friend Terry Gaiman, where during the blood diamond thing, they were looking for sky stone. These were pieces of both pieces of UFOs and also dimensional stones that came in from a different frequency and dimensional space. UFOs used it as a heat shield as well. Parts of the war from Lemuria and Atlantis also took place in those areas, and resources abounds in Africa. There's alien spaceships everywhere. in Africa because it was a fragment of Atlantis, a big battleground at the end times of Atlantis. So, aside from the Eye of Sahara being the capital, you had Egypt, also an outpost, and you had it stretched out of the ocean. But Africa is part of it. Just because Antarctica got frozen and got sent further south doesn't mean that Atlantis is all under the sea. There's a lot of artifacts from some of the war times, even further back in time. This is also your Skinwalker Ranch is part of this as well, where there's stuff from the time of the Great Seeding, aside from the narratives you see on the show. There are a lot of them. There's a lot of bullcrap being thrown in there as well. But there's a time fracture from the Atlantis-Lemuria War, and then you have bits and pieces of other time frames, or even further back on the PowerPoint during the times of the Great Seeding, when continents were moved, basically like if you stuck a handle on something and continents were moved around or remote controlled into place. That's one of the PowerPoints that was mainly used. Now, back to Africa. It's a highly contested area. There are so many resources there from the last Great War with Atlantis and Lemuria. There's also resources from the ages before, dimensional spaces. Also, the last battle of some of the major Titan dragons took place in, I believe it was Drakensborg. I believe it's called the Drakensberg, something like this. Or basically, you call it the Elephant's Graveyard. A lot of these things happen. There's so many PowerPoints there, just like in your Middle East. There's so many resources and PowerPoints there that Enlil had tried to control back in the day. It's not even funny. This is the battle between Enki and Enlil. You have Enki's old territory, you have Enlil's old territory. And these are the resources left behind, very much like in your Conan, where basically the giants left the steel on the battlefield, and the gods warring left the steel on the battlefield, and men picked it up for themselves, kind of thing, with the riddle of steel. This is what you're dealing with, much broader in spectrum, but you're dealing with the riddle of steel and how to obtain it. This is exactly what's going on.
Okay, well, I think I'm going to leave it there because it's a lot for people to think about. We're going to do, I think, a lot more conversations on the old wars, and again, and what you're saying, what's been left, and people are going to find them. I find it interesting because, of course, those that are whomever they are higher up know all about it.
Mm-hmm.
Know the stuff is strewn all over the place. Know that time fractures occurred. They know all about the true
They know
history.
every bit of the true history. They're hoping you don't figure it out. This is also another reason you guys have gotten some targeting. It's for your GIC content with the galactic history, and also piecing it together on their end with the lifting and other variations, also as well as your conspiracy sector and your world of Sasquatch. They do not like that you're finding other appealing areas to get this information out. They hate it. This is what's going on.
Right. And the fact is, of course, because they want to spin the yarn of what history has been and what it's going to play out here in the future, that they don't want anything divergent coming up in conversation whatsoever. Because I hate to say it, some of these shows that are out there are all about controlling the narrative and controlling what they're going to tie it all in together to present as to this is truly what life is around you and this is where we're going. Mm-hmm. And it will be a story that is spun in order to have them still maintain their control in their way that they want things to go. It won't actually be the truth. So
you call them the champions or the shills. I say both. You're going to, the reason there's another part of the yield where you guys are defying it and bucking the system and putting the better information out there. This is also another part of the system. Like he saw a friend of his was talking about a paranormal show where they just wanted to go along with a particular script versus having the camaraderie back and forth of doing true investigating. You're going to see the latter win after a while. The truth and trueness of a thing. This is what will eventually take place.
Well, that's good to hear. Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate you coming in. Any last words for this show?
But you also all have to make that happen, too. You have to notice these things. Do not believe even stuff you once actually knew was good on television. There is a pendulum swing. There's nothing completely pure. You have to make it this way. And not necessarily pure per se. You have to make it more truthful and more genuine, like your conferences is this year. So, and was last year, you see. So, I will take my leave then. Thank you, everybody, and blessings to everybody. Yes, that's interesting. And she's saying, Freddie, you can quit being creepy now. Because he's doing this. He just has his hand in my orc field right here. And this is what I do when I close circle. I usually put hand over the head. What I'm doing is getting rid of strings and entanglements or anything like that. Because channeling, you open a portal, and basically that connection, it's essentially a string. This is why Warren psychics don't do mini reads at conferences or conventions or psychic fairs where you're just trying to do like little walk around, do mini reads. This is why I warn against it. The reason he had his hand this way is he was protecting from above and the sides here, and he had and I felt other hands on my ears and such. That was blocking V2K. They want to make sure the truth is out there, not trying to plug X Files there, but then another show that's out there. But what was it? Oh no, I thought you had something to say, Freddie. But this has actually been a very interesting show. I will actually swing it over to get it back over to the document here. And what? Oh, you're telling me to fix my hair there. Okay. He goes, "You're starting to look like me." Okay. Oh yeah, because you had the yeah. All right. Or Superman with the thing that came down. Yeah. Okay. Cute. Okay. Let's see. Get this last affirmation and blessing here. Okay. Who was it written by? It's another Warhagen one. Okay. To decorate one's yard in crystals is, in fact, inviting elementals to come play. If a stump exists, pay homage to it as an elemental's home. Touch not with blade, nor hammer, nor iron spike, only that of crystal, color dark, and color light. Within the intent of balance, wisdom, and respect. That is all that we ask in the end. Warhagen, the elemental. So, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No.
Okay. I now close this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now.